Hi. So obviously at the moment we can't hands-on correct clients. We can't get hands-on with them, we can't move them into the position that we want them to. So I thought I'd give you some of the cues I've been using so that they can hopefully self-correct. I'm sure you've got lots of them as well, but I thought they may be useful for us to share and just have a think about how we can get clients to feel in their own body what we're wanting them to feel. So one of the ones I use first of all when they are moving and we're trying to get hip disassociation, so being able to move from the hip and not let the back move, is to have one hand on the lower abs and the other hand just gently sliding underneath the back. You can imprint the spine a little bit if you want to, or you can stay in neutral there. But I want them to feel with their bottom hand that their back is quite relaxed. They're not gripping with the back at all. They can kind of feel the muscles are relaxed. Hands on the lower abs, and we've got that engagement across. So you're cueing them to try and keep the vertebra still as they're moving the legs. They can also notice here, I think more than hands on the ribs, if their weight is shifting a lot. So they'll feel if as the foot lifts, if the pelvis moves, the weight will come off the hand there. So obviously they can change over, see what's happening both sides. And you can progress that to when the feet come off the floor. So they've got to work super hard to hold that. That's an exercise challenge in itself. And you can progress to toe taps. If they get all the way down, checking that their back doesn't lift away and that the abs are supporting from the front. And they might be surprised to find that their range of movement is a lot smaller. You're really just looking for that just slight pop away from the hand. It's a good cue to use for that. The other one I use in a lot of exercises is having the little finger on the hip bones and your thumb on the ribs, and just feeling that connection. If I lift the ribs, the distance gets bigger, and if I tuck too much, it gets smaller. So maintaining this square as you're working is quite a good cue to use. They can have their hands on there, feel what's happening as that leg lifts and doing, whatever action you want to do with the legs. That cue is also, I find, useful for shoulder bridge. So obviously it will show here as if you're doing the peel off version, but when they get to the top, a lot of clients kind of lose that connection. We'll go into extension, and if you kind of have that position and just feel that there's still a bit of connection between ribs and hips at the top there, they've not just let go, it's just a nice way of them feeling what's going on. And they'll also feel if they're even on each side with that. They'll feel if they're rocking, if they've got the little finger on the hip bone and the thumb on the ribs. You can equally use that in side lying. So hand on the rib, hand on the hip, by all means bending that bottom knee, but if you're doing kicks forward or circles or leg lifts, you're getting them to connect here. So as they move back, we're not extending there or shortening to come forward. So you've got the lift slightly here and keeping the length on this side, making sure this hip isn't hitching or moving forward and back. So I do like that position quite a lot. Another tricky one is all fours. So you will see obviously a lot of collapsing of the hips, and you can't get hands on to hold the hips. So a cue that I like to use is, taking the leg out, do whatever you want with the leg lifts, leg circles, etc. But when it comes back in, their knee needs to fit. So using that cue for them, as your leg comes back in, does your knee fit into that gap? Or do you have to lift your hip to fit it in? Or do you have to lower your hip to fit it in? So it's just quite a nice cue. That hip knee should just slot straight into the gap if the pelvis is staying steady. So guys, share any other cues that you've got where clients can feel sort of for themselves what's going on, either with the hands or with that spatial awareness. Thought they might be useful for you until we can get our hands on our clients.